feel really honored. And I remember getting the email and I was like, I want to be a part of that. That has a really powerful message. What really drew me to the show was the really well done that there's 3 different groups from 3 different backgrounds, from 3 different races that have these 3 very deep and interesting plots that somehow intertwine and work together.
So as an educator, I'm always wanting to expose children, teach them, allow them to grow and expand their minds, and I believe that that's what has happened. It's kind of exciting to be a part of this endeavor. I asked for this show. I felt that it was important so the kids could be a part of something that represented them. We have a wide range of ages, from elementary all the way up to high school. We started off providing some historical background information about the show, about the different nationalities that are represented or ethnicities that are represented in the script, and talking about some of the words they are very familiar with and that they know are derogatory words. And so we talked about the historical implications behind those words and how they came about. They really have gotten into understanding that this message is really important. And not just the racial component of it, but also the violence towards women, the violence towards Black men, the women's rights, and just understanding that these are the struggles that our country has gone through. I think that for Black History Month, what we have done is we've tried to tell a portion of our history that represents a portion of the actors that participate in NTPA.
I don't often get to work with this many children of color. In theater, we overwhelmingly find that children of color, and I found this as myself when I was a kid, we don't see ourselves on stage. With the diversity initiative at NTPA, I'm actually getting to work with a lot of children of color and tell a story that tells about history that all of these kids need to know about.
Especially during Black History Month, we get to put on a show where we deal about real injustices that still go on, stuff that went on back in the day, stuff that goes on now, stuff that will happen in the future. I enjoy this role, especially because I'm a man of color who has dealt with injustices before. And to put on this role and to show people that might not experience the same injustices that other people might experience, to kind of tell a story that went on back in the day but could still happen at any time in the moment, is really important to show people. I want people to understand that injustices are real. People of color or immigrants, there's all sorts of real issues that may have went on back then that is still relevant to this day. Cole House feels attacked. He feels like he gets no justice in any way, and the only answer is to go out and cause havoc to everybody else. He went through a lot of pain when Sarah died, and it really impacted him and changed, the course of his life. And different people deal with bad things that come to them differently, and maybe not what Cole House did was exactly the right way of going about it, but the way he just shows the level of anger of the injustices that he went through.
Sarah is something that I've always wanted to be. I've always wanted to be Sarah. Me and my dad always practiced in the car, Wheels of a Dream, since I was little.
Daddy play piano, Betty's playing still. Mama can't forget him, don't suppose I
My favorite part of the show is when everyone comes together for Sarah's death. And it really shows that her death impacted so many people. The fact that all those people could come together and be able to mourn her. February is Black History Month. This is the month that we celebrate African Americans, what they've done, the things that they've contributed to society, or to remember the things that they had been through and to make sure that that doesn't happen again. If racism isn't willing to stop at certain ages and doesn't have an age restriction, neither should these lessons. And Ragtime gives important lessons that I think people of all ages should learn. This show is way more than just African Americans. Even though this month is so important, this show has so much about different cultures. There's the immigrants, you see what they've been through and what they go through to get to where they are and the things that they're willing to give up.
You can start with less and make a success. With ordinary paper, a pair of scissors and some glue, I shall give you a thing of such beauty.
From this production, people can take away the themes of hope and inclusiveness. I think it's important to realize that when we as a people come together, there can be unity. There's a part of the show where a racist fireman tries to get Coalhouse to turn away because of the color of his skin. You notice that Coalhouse doesn't really back down. He has that sense of endurance. He'll keep going and keep trying. And I think that's really important for us to take upon that action to keep going, even though we're in the midst of a hardship.
I'll play them the music of something beginning, an era exploding, a century spinning.
What really drew me to the show was the fact that there were sort of 3 different plots going on at the same time, and most people would make the assumption that, hey, this might just be a black show, because you notice that most of the key songs in the show, they're sung by the people of Harlem or the people of color. There's 3 different groups from 3 different backgrounds, from 3 different races that have these 3 very deep and interesting plots that somehow intertwine and work together to ultimately find the end product.
Tell me how to be someone whose heart can explore while still staying here. Let this be the year.
I, in particular, was an advocate that we leave all of the racism in the story of Ragtime. The story doesn't really make sense without racism. It's important to hear those words on the stage so we know why we shouldn't say them. It's not just some word that some rapper came up with and it's slang. My first time I experienced racism, I was 9 years old. A kid told me, black people are dirty. I'm pretty sure he would have called me the N-word if he had known what the N-word was. But he told me that black people are dirty because their skin is brown. I was 9 when that happened. Ruby Bridges was younger than any of these kids when there were people outside of her school protesting to tell her she couldn't go to a white school. When Willie Conklin calls Coalhouse the N-word, we need to keep that as a part of the play, otherwise we don't understand that what we're fighting against, the antagonist of this show, is the racism that exists.
To me, I'm not some fool, I'm not their nigger. I will have what's fairly owed me.
If I'm old enough to experience it at 9, I think the kids are old enough to perform it.
We have so much diversity in this show, and it's just really beautiful to see on stage. And I think the way we're telling Ragtime is it might be hard to watch, but it's important too. It's very real about what we're going through right now. The world isn't as kind or as this beautiful bubble as we want it to be. That all this that's happening in the show is real life, and we need to know and educate and make sure that people know what it's actually like, and that life isn't always kind to everyone.
This show, I think it's really important to look at the beginning and the end, and how at the beginning that there are 3 distinguished groups and they're separated, and at the end they're all together and they're clumped up. And I want them to be able to look at the person next to them, and I want them to see a difference. I want them to come in with the family, and I want them to walk out and realize who they're sitting with, and that even if they might be of different colors, or they might be just different people entirely, that we're still all people. It doesn't matter what we look like or where we come from, that we're still, the same. I think it's important, and I think it makes me feel proud that we're able to share stuff like this, because there are a lot of people that can look at our scenarios and our situation, and they won't see it as a real problem because they never lived it and they don't know what it's like. And by sharing a story like this, people can hopefully understand where we are coming from and the certain things that are happening to us and that have happened to us. And it makes me feel proud that I can share that.
For me, with Ragtime, these are hard stories. These are not the fun stories. These are the stories that we live every day, especially if you're a person of color. But we focus on people of color, but these are stories that a white person can tell, that an immigrant can tell, that Latinos can tell. They're human stories. And to be able to be part of a theater that is willing to put on a hard story, I think that's the message that we tell everybody, that we are not afraid. We're not afraid about having those conversations. We're not afraid to just do what theater and the arts have done for centuries, is provoke, it's to think, it's to engage. For us, putting on Ragtime, I think it was really important because it allows us to share a story about the African American experience, the immigrant experience, that most people would shy away from. And those authentic stories is what our kids need. And I'm incredibly proud of them. I think our directors are amazing. A lot of people would say, why would you have somebody who is not a person of color directing a Ragtime? There's been controversies about that at other theaters. I can share with you that under the direction and leadership of Mike Mazur, Ragtime has been told authentically. He's really conscientious about the experience, about what it is to actually put on a show that may include, incredibly diverse cast. Dee Dee, Anthony, the show managers, Natasha, the assistant show director, all of the parents that have come together for this production. It really shows a world in which people of all colors can work together, but also still be able to know that even though our experiences are different, we are able to come together to create this unique experience for our children and our actors in these shows.
When the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Task Force of the North Texas Performing Arts first suggested that we might try the show Ragtime, we really looked carefully at when we would do it, how we would staff it, and what we could do to bring this great show to life authentically. I was really proud of all the support from the organization as we began assembling a team of onstage and backstage performers that represent the authentic diversity that the show brings to life. We knew from day one that in order to create this show, we not only had to have the staff and the actors that represent the story, but a process that brings those together. The North Texas Performing Arts Plano Management Board assigned a producer to the show, Natasha Scott, an excellent arts educator in the area, who set about assembling a team that would reflect the different ethnicities and racial components of the script so that our leadership team could guide the actors. We very intentionally have two show managers, Randa Black and Lauren Sivak. Randa's African American and Lauren is a family of the Jewish faith. They were able to bring their lived experience to this. Our choreographer Dee Dee Munson and music director Anthony Holmes, both of whom are African American, and bring their personal life experience as well as incredible experience and talent in producing theater into our shows. So we could not only talk about racial equality and the challenges of the script, we could model it. When the team would get together and meet, it was representative of a wide variety of ages, races, genders that we then could model for our actors so they could see how serious we are about our mission of reflecting the society that we represent.
I think the artistic team handled the message very well. I think that we were very responsible and that we were very loving and very supportive of the kids. I think it's a great move for NTPA to make, especially during Black History Month. I think we're moving in the right direction with inclusivity and diversity, and it's nice to see. As a staff member at NTPA, I like that we push the envelope a little bit. I like that we make people think. I like that we make them a little bit uncomfortable. There's a scene in the show that Cole House Walker, his car is destroyed. On a personal level, I can relate to that growing up. My older sister was the first Black cheerleader at an all-white school, and we lived in an all-white neighborhood. We woke up one morning and walked out, and her car had been destroyed, and the N-word had been painted all over it, and they had left a possum in it. So just having that reaction and seeing his reaction, which was very much my dad's reaction, kind of struck a personal note with the show. I am so proud of this cast of kids, just their work ethic, their maturity during rehearsals, just diving into it and just continuing to improve and to get better each and every rehearsal. Anything that we gave them, they'd take it home and work on it and come back, and it was 10 times better than we ever expected.
Come see Ragtime. Get ready for a ride. You're going to dance, you're going to laugh, you're going to be shocked, you're going to be horrified, you're going to cry. But just being able to see these children put on a show that is just so mature and so heavy on content that's relative to today's society, you're going to walk away a completely different person than when you came to the show.